Welcome everybody to the Chess Lab. It has been a while since I recorded with the camera, but here we are. So what I want to do today is try to solve some puzzles on chess.com. There is no particular reason for that, aside from the fact that of course I'm training to play some better chess. I really need to train to play some better chess, I really do. And so here we are. I think that I will divide this in 2 or even more parts. I'll try to get to 50 in this part here, which should be manageable in not too much time for me. And then I'll just stop it there. So here of course is checkmate. The first I'm gonna go relatively fast because they just, steal your brain power for no reasons at all. These are just basic checkmate patterns, and they should fly pretty quickly. Alright, so there is a check here. Almost missed this one. Here there is a check, check, checkmate. Check takes check, that's checkmate, so that's pretty good. So here, of course, you want to take, but then you notice that the queen is looking. So as a rule, you want to look at check first, to be completely honest. So there is this check, which happened to be a fork to the bishop. Now, because of the way my chair is set up, my microphone is slightly away from my face, which, by the way, I'm using my phone as a microphone. You probably heard weird voice around. But yeah, that's what I'm doing here. So okay, I mean, what's going on? Again, you have to look for checks. There is knight g5 check, and after h takes g5, well, the rook is defended. Of course, the goal was to win the rook for the knight. Then we can give another check. The king has to go on one of those squares. Then we give another check. So we already won 2 pawns for the knight, but look at that, this is a fork to the king and the rook. So I think that's the solution. And here we go. For example, sometimes chess.com is a little bit weird, because this puzzle here, you should be able to see this below me, by the way. I try to set up things in a way that you can see everything. You see the score here. Hopefully everything is working. I don't have 2 monitors, so I can't tell what you're seeing exactly. I did some tests, but that's pretty much it. So this puzzle here is, I mean, you have to see 1, 2, 3 moves, 4. It's a little bit complicated, in my opinion at least. I mean, it's not the easiest puzzle ever. And then this is just a mate in 1. And this is supposed to be a harder puzzle because it's after. But yeah, this happens quite often with chess.com. These you don't really need to calculate, these are patterns. Okay, so here again you look for checks. Unfortunately, this is illegal. I just noticed. I didn't notice it in the beginning. It wasn't meant to be didactical for you, I say queen d5 and you immediately say, no, queen d5 is impossible, and I'm such a good teacher. No, I'm just terrible at chess. I genuinely didn't notice that this was pinned. So here you have it for you. Well, I think that then I have to take this bishop. I really do have to do it. And there are no good discoveries with this bishop, I suppose. I can always go here with check and then win the bishop, and then the queen is hanging. Also, I don't really have any other moves. I mean, you can look at rook h2 check, but there is no really a follow-up, because no matter which check you give, the king can always slide back. And then there is no continuation. Again, this queen is always blocked. So I'm just gonna go with it. Yeah, so I would love to click here and show you the variations, but if I had two monitors, I could do it. But here I can't do it because it destroys everything. I should create 2 layers, 2 different setups of screens, and then with the other monitor go between them when I show you the actual puzzles. and when I solve them in an analysis board. But yeah, too bad we cannot do that. So, okay, here there is queen c4 check. Again, if you are wondering, maybe you are more on the beginner side, how do I spot these moves? Is because they are checks. And most often than not, when stronger players solve puzzles, I'm not talking about myself, by the way, but in general, if they don't solve puzzles, it's because they didn't really follow the rules. And a lot of the times, that's also the case for me, except sometimes I just can't calculate. But okay, here, queen c4 check. The king has only one move, really, because this bishop is controlling the dark squares, very important to notice. So queen c4, king b1, a2 check, the king has to go here, and then you can promote either to a queen, or if you want to be fancy, to a rook, and that's pretty much it. So let's go for it. Here it is. I think that's a forced mate. So you deliver a check, the king can't go anywhere. Again, it's important to notice that the bishops are slicing the pie. And okay, after the check, if they go back, you have two different mates. To notice that also bishop takes will be mate, not only queen takes. So logically, they will take with the pawn. Then you take the pawn with check again, but this time they can interpose with the bishop. And if you take the bishop, they just take with the queen. However, with the king rather. However, you can take here on a8 with check, and you will notice the king actually has no squares. So the only move is bishop c8, but then queen takes c8 is checkmate. So I'm just going with it. To do puzzles really the right way, you should ask yourself, does my opponent have threats? What is the material? But again, in these, let's say, lower puzzles, I'm trying to go a little bit faster. Well, this is checkmate in one. I'll take it. This is just a very famous pattern. It's important that you close the defense of the rook, but apart from that, it's pretty elementary stuff. So this check is tempting because then we take the queen, but we don't really win the queen. So what about queen takes? Well, then they can go here, and here we can play this bishop g5 check. This may be a sneaky move to some of you, I guess. Just look at the whole board. Ask yourself, how can I give check with all of my pieces? And if your pieces feels like they are far away from the action, like your pieces are all here and the king is here, yeah, pawn I see you, but you can't check from there. Look at the bishops especially, right? This knight is not going to deliver a check. But what about the bishops? So we said check, here, check. Now, to really get 10 points, you should ideally see that there is bishop f6, and then after bishop takes f6, that's actually checkmate. But if you get the idea, that's very good. It's not perfect, but it's very good. So, okay, so the king moved there. Sorry, why didn't they just promote? I don't know. I have no idea. This is a tricky puzzle because, like, can't I just take and this is winning? Just make sure they don't have counterplay. I guess that's the theme. I don't know. What is this? What? I'm not understanding. Like, knight takes. So okay, in this type of puzzles that may be a little bit confusing, and this is genuinely confusing to me. I'm like, what? It seems to me that knight takes g3 is the obvious move, but again, chill for a second. This is how you make mistakes in puzzles and in games too, when you rush. When you know the answer and then it's wrong. So let's count material, let's take some general considerations here. 3 pawns, 3 pawns, 6 pawns. 3 pawns, 3 pawns, 6 pawns. So pawns are equal. Let's look at the pieces. 2 rooks, 1 queen, the kings. Heavy pieces, the kings, of course, there is 1 king each, that would be weird otherwise. But the heavy pieces are the same. And the minor pieces, which I think are the superstars of these puzzles, this puzzle here, I would say, are also equal. However, again, we can just win one, right? and I know there is this, and I know there is that. However, is not a problem. Also, after knight takes, we are threatening queen to e8 checkmate. It's not checkmate, they can stop, but then all of a sudden we have either one of these two pieces, probably the queen because this is pinned. So to give you an example, knight takes, queen check, rook stops, and queen, or in this case even rook takes, and this is just checkmate. So I'll take it. Okay, if they take this way, I'm just gonna take here, and if they take back, again, remember, we are up a piece. If they try to be fancy, I'm afraid for them it doesn't work. We just check here, and then one of these two is just checkmate. So here we go. We won a piece. Beautiful. I was about to say that the move is queen takes h4 because of g takes h4. I know this is crazy, but this is what I thought in an instant. Queen takes, pawn takes, rook takes, and there is no way to stop rook h1 checkmate because the bishop is supporting this. What? Like, what? I think queen takes h4 is the solution, paradoxically enough, because this is pinned. This is the first problem in that variation I just showed you. Also, this bishop is blocked. Also, even if for some absolutely ridiculous reasons I could get there, they can't. I know this will be checkmate, but it can be played in the beginning. But even if it was, they can just play f3 to like escape from the check. So this variation doesn't work for like a billions of reasons. But here we go. Here we are. So I think again, paradoxically, queen h4 is actually the best move, not because of g takes and rook takes, but because g takes is actually not possible. And since g takes is not possible, I'm just threatening 1, 2 checkmates, which are just impossible to prevent. Okay, maybe we should give a little bit more attention to this. Queen takes, king g2, may be an attempt. Check, the king moves out. That's actually an attempt. That's actually an attempt. So here, the king goes here. Maybe I can check here. They have to come here. There's probably a forced checkmate somewhere, I guess. But that's tricky. Maybe queen h5 back. And then if they come back, they can just come back though. So takes, this is very stupid. How can I be stuck on that? Because of course also the rook can join here. If the king goes on a light square, there's this. So there are many issues here. I'm sure queen takes h4 is winning. In situations like this, you can also count the material. We have 5 pawns, they have 6, and we have a bishop. So we are just down a pawn. After we take on h4, we have a massive attack, and material is now equal. Technically, you can already stop here. But I'm just trying to... You have to understand that if you do puzzles, and I used to do this mistake in the past. By the way, old habits still remains. I have to click on this freaking button from time to time, otherwise it just disappears. But anyways, I was saying, I used to do this mistake too, and I think most chess players do that. We are trying to solve puzzles to solve puzzle. Like you see this 23, you want to get to 30 or whatever. But we are not doing that for solving puzzles. We are doing that to improve at chess, to improve our calculation, our pattern recognition. So if you look queen takes h4, king g2, and you're like, oh, there must be something somewhere, I definitely have a better position, their king is out in the open, I can play rook e8, I'm definitely better, routing the bishop, it's completely winning. Yes, I get it, but again, you are not here to solve a puzzle for the sake of it. So try to calculate. Why? Because why not? You are here for that. Don't be... I'm not even saying lazy, because that's not really laziness, it's just put some standards for yourself. Try to always look a move further, which is very difficult, but this will set you apart, in my opinion, to other players that don't do it. So queen takes h4. And by the way, this is just a 1300 level puzzle, so you can learn a bunch from those puzzles too. So queen takes h4, king g2. Maybe I'm missing something, like rook takes g3, for example. It's a check. It would be checkmate if it wasn't for f takes g3. And then look at this, queen h2 check, only move, and then we grab the queen. Oh, look at that. See? That's pretty beautiful. That's pretty beautiful. So yeah, that's just winning. And of course, you know, this chess.com is just okay, whatever, but it would have been interesting to see what players would have done on king to g2. I think that, I don't know if you can see it, I think it's very small for you, but after queen takes and king g2, the reason why the engine doesn't continue, and when they do that, is because it's not a forcing line, meaning after queen takes h4, king g2, there are multiple ways of winning. So I'm sure rook takes wins, but also queen h3 probably very much wins. Again, I would love to show you the variations, but not today, guys. Sorry. So okay, are they threatening something? Yeah, a2, which probably wins. So yeah, they definitely have threats, but we are also doing something here on this king side. So let's just calculate brute force. Rook takes g7, bishop takes g7, rook takes g7. If the king goes to f8, queen to h8 is mate, so queen takes, and then queen takes is checkmate. If we reverse the order, nothing really changes, so this is very simple, and we made it to 25, which is half of the way. Now I'm gonna take some water and drink while I do that. You guys can think about this puzzle, even though it seems quite obvious. So what? Now, I'm sorry that I asked you to stop here, because it's quite ridiculous, but unless I'm going insane, which sometimes I think I may be, I mean, I just take the queen, right? What? And you see, you may say, why do you hesitate? Because we are supposed to start to calculate a couple of moves. I'm just saying. So, what? So, okay, I take. Can this pawn promote? I am suspecting that he's going this way, so definitely not. And even if it was going this way, we have a bishop there. Maybe there are some forks. Doesn't seem like it. Maybe there is some forced checkmate if I do this or something, but it doesn't seem like it. So I'm just gonna take the queen. Okay, sometimes these puzzles are just the way they are. Can't really do much about it, I guess. Really, really weird at times. Really, really weird. So now what's going on? Well, that's a tough one. That's we have to be very, very careful. So this is an attacking, but I would say it's a defensive exercise. They just went here, forking the rook and the queen, and this rook is also pinned. So the first instinct you may have is queen e1 check. And after king to h2, you look around, there are no other checks. This may be tempting, but remember, our rook is pinned. In a fraction of a second, as soon as I see the board, I saw rook takes g2. Now I realized it's absolutely unplayable. So after the check, they go to h2. And so you start to realize that, okay, this is under attack, it's pinned, it's attacked by the knight. You take it. The problem with that is that all of a sudden, since this is pinned, it's like it's a pawn. And if you try to visualize these 2 pawns here, this is a bank rank checkmate. And the queen went away from e7, so we don't have rook f8. If rook f8, just rook takes with checkmate. So I think that queen e1 is actually a mistake, believe it or not. But if queen e1 check is not a mistake, then there are 2 moves in order of importance, which are captures, but also something that I would add is threat of checkmate. Because threat is lower than captures, of course, because it's not as forcing. However, if you're threatening checkmate, that's a different story. Can we threaten checkmate here? I mean, we can, but it's too slow in this case, because they are just threatening to take, if anything, with check, if anything. And then it's equal, but in the end they have rook d7, and we lose the endgame, because they're up 2 pawns. You have to remember, if all of the pieces gets liquidated, we lose the endgame. And they're threatening to take this with check, which is a 10 pawn. So threatening checkmate in different ways doesn't work. This doesn't work because, again, just to show you, queen takes, knight takes, king takes, rook d7, this is a fork. So the only move is rook f7, but rook takes, king takes, and they are just up 2 pawns. They're just gonna win the game. I'm not an expert in endgames whatsoever, but I think I can say pretty confidently that 3 against 1 with the other one being the same, it's pretty good. So going here and here, it's so slow we actually get checkmated, so that's unplayable. So okay, let's look at the captures now. There is queen takes or rook takes. Let's not be completely autistic and let's look at rook takes f5, which is just more sensible objectively. And okay, here it's a little bit different, the story, because all of a sudden you realize you are up a full rook, so now all of a sudden is on white to find something forcing, and they have nothing. After rook d8, you just go back with the rook, and everything is covered. If they take, you take, and you're up a full rook. If they play rook d7 back, you can take. And you may say, wait, if the queen takes, the rook is pinned. Well, if the queen takes, the rook is not pinned anymore. And the reason I'm spending so many words on this is because I think a lot of you guys, because I remember when I was more of a beginner, I struggled with these things. Like, I will see this, and I'm like, oh, I can't take, because if the queen takes, then the rook is pinned, without realizing that, of course, takes. These are visualizations and geometrical, logical, call it as you want, mistakes that are actually crucial. So I think I'm not wasting time at all spending some time here. Yeah, I'm just gonna take, and I'm just gonna go back. Okay, they take, we just take, we saw this. Okay, beautiful. So how to do this? They're threatening checkmate in 1, which is pretty nasty. We would love to play queen h7 checkmate, but there is the queen. So can we deflect the queen? Can we deliver checks? Can we do both? Well, if you think this way, you immediately spot knight f6 check. And this is checkmate except queen takes. So queen h7 can be played. Noticing that knight e7 doesn't work, it would be checkmate on the spot, but then knight just takes. So yeah, this was a nice checkmate in 2. And let's see this puzzle here. So this is very interesting. Oh, this is very interesting. So there are no good checks. Knight g4, a takes g4. It's okay if you look at knight g4, sorry. Just spend very little time on it. There's nothing after that. Can I threaten checkmate? No, of course. The king is too much defended, far away from my pieces. Okay, so it's not about their king. And already it makes it a little bit more complicated. It's about the pieces then. Okay, you can count material. Here I'm not even gonna do it, but I'm sure it's equal material. I can see we have the 4 minor pieces, the pawns are the same. Yeah, it's equal material. So how can we do this? Well, I see this knight, this queen and this pawn are on this knight and this bishop are on this knight. So let's try to look at some captures. Also, if you are a little bit more of an advanced player, a stronger player, with a little bit more experience, you may notice c4. c4 is interesting because it technically traps the bishop. It doesn't work immediately though, because just knight takes, for example, or something, right? And after you take back, they can just take, and you take, and they can take with the bishop, with the queen. The knight is defended by the rook. But then you notice something. This pawn is kind of overworked. He's defending the knight, he's defending c4. So if you take on e4, which even if you don't think about all these things, which is totally fine, you should consider knight takes e4 or bishop takes e4 just because they are captures. So even if you are not aware of this trapping the bishop theme, which is crucial in this puzzle of course, even if you are not aware of it, you can still solve this puzzle with this process of finding checks, captures, and so on. So okay, you capture the knight, they take with the pawn, and then you see that you can play c4. Again, you may not see this in the beginning, but you look at this and you ask yourself, what is next? What is next? Do I have a move? Do I have checks? No. Do I have captures? No. Do I have attacks? And you find c4. So already in this puzzle you had to go to the third, which is attacks. Checks, captures, technically checks, threat of mate, captures, and then attacks. It's the third order of importance. But here it is. That's why this is not such a super easy puzzle. Now, the question that the more advanced player should ask himself is, what's the difference between bishop takes and knight takes? And if there is a difference at all? Well, there has to be, because again, in chess.com, they don't show you puzzles that have two solutions, because that would be impossible for the computer. And by the way, let me click this. So you know already that there is a massive difference. One wins and the other doesn't. So how do you go about this? Well, you try to look at the most unnatural. So for example, for me personally, the most unnatural is bishop takes. Because usually, in general, not always, but in general, bishops are regarded as being more valuable than knights. So you want to consider to give away your knight. I know you're going to win a piece, but still, as a logical way of thinking, knight takes just seems more natural. Also, this bishop looks fantastic, to be honest. So bishop takes is definitely unnatural. So to exclude a move, you want to look at the most unnatural. So knight takes, you say, in my gut feeling, is the solution. So let's try to look at bishop takes, which is weird. So maybe we find out why it's wrong. Well, after d takes, they cannot take with the queen, by the way, of course, because the other minor piece then takes. I didn't mention it, but hopefully it was obvious. Well, you play c4, right? But that's when you see the difference. All of a sudden, this pawn can move and fork your own pieces. So yes, you will win a bishop, but they will win yours. And maybe pawn-wise, you may be up a pawn, I don't know, but it gets complicated, it doesn't make sense. Here you're trying to go to win a piece, not just trading pawns. So yeah, bishop takes is refuted, because if you play c4, then they have a fork. Now, if you spend a tempo saving from this fork, they can spend a tempo saving from your trapping the bishop theme. And that's literally it. It's as simple as that. Yeah, so taking with the knight instead doesn't allow them to have a fork. Here you can just move the bishop, right? And then you will collect theirs. They tried c3, but it didn't work there. So okay, that was very instructive in my opinion. What is this? We just solved a couple of very instructive puzzles. What is this? Like, again, I have some trouble with some of these puzzles, because after difficult ones, they are so easy. Maybe it's made on purpose. If that's the case, fine. But like, isn't it just rook f7 checkmate? Am I going insane? And this was puzzle number 30, 16 under 35. Okay. Again? Mate in 1? Again? What? No, what? It's mate in 1. It doesn't even matter where his pawns are going. What? Again? Again? G5 is a mate in 1. Okay, for a moment I'm like, again? But no, it seems like this time is not mate in 1. It's close though, because queen takes is not checkmate because the queen guards the pawn. It's weird when you have a queen guarding a pawn, or in general your opponent piece is guarding another piece through your piece. That's a tricky scenario, but it's very important to notice, of course. So I was about to be like, queen g7, are we crazy? 3 mates in 1 in a row or something? But no, this time is a bit more complicated. Not much though. So I have to clean my nose so you guys can think about the solution. It's a forced mate, that's an helping for you. Okay, it took me a second to find the second move. That was a wordplay. But rook takes h6 check, that's easy to find because the pawn, of course, it's pinned. So rook takes h6 also is a check. King g8, and it's here that you really have to find the move, which is queen takes e6 check. And after the king is forced here, of course, rook h8 just ends the game. The pawn, of course, prevents his queen to look at it. And so you just go for it. Okay. And this is checkmate in 1. Very nice. I don't know what to say. I really don't. You know when YouTubers kind of play it dumb? Like, I don't know what to say, but I'm not playing it dumb. Like, you show me some... Okay, they're not Grandmaster level, but they're solid puzzles. And then there are just mate in 1s. I mean, honestly, even if you were there solving them by yourself, you kind of would react like that. I mean, it's just very weird. It just is. So, all right, what to do here? Oh, that's nasty. I may have found it. If that's the case, that's nasty. Ooh, that's nasty. And beautiful, but nasty mainly. That's really nice. So let's count material here because that's a little bit more complicated. So 2, 3, 5, 3, 1, 4. So we are up a pawn. Let's look at the pieces. We have 2 knights, bishop. They have 2 bishops, knight. They have a queen, rook. Okay, we are down a rook though. So we have a pawn, they have a rook. That's not good. And I noticed something. I noticed that we are attacking this rook 2 times. It's defended 2 times, but one defender is the king. And that's not the only thing I'm noticing, you know. I'm noticing that there are some checks. But they kind of seems to not work. Like queen h5 is really tempting. g6 doesn't work because of queen takes g6. And we are noticing that the bishop is guarding g6, very important. Look at this bishop here on b1. It's kind of hidden, but you have to notice it. But they don't have to play g6. They can just go back here, for example. I'm just saying. And it seems to me that there is not a clean continuation. All of a sudden they are threatening rook takes c1, which simplifies the position in such a crazy way. Bishop takes g3. Like rook takes, knight takes, bishop takes, we have no more pieces. If we deliver another check, they can just block. They don't have to come back. And it seems to me they have a fantastic playable position. If we take the rook, they just take, and fantastic. So queen h4, it seems like it doesn't quite work. We have jumps with the knights, with the knight, but they just take. So what do we do? Well, there is another check. I'm not talking about rook e7 or queen here or here or here, by the way. I'm not talking about these crazy moves or here. Well, queen takes is definitely not crazy, but I'm not talking about weird heavy pieces moves. I'm talking about bishop g6. The reason why bishop g6 is such an interesting check, and a reason why, if you were solving this puzzle, you should consider it in a very important way, is that you are also skewering here. Meaning, if the king simply moves, first of all, there may be some very nasty checks, but apart from that, you can't just take now. And all of a sudden, you are up that very famous pawn, plus their king is exposed. So your attack continues, you are up a pawn, you are no longer down the rook, so you're up a pawn and the attack continues. It's a dream. If anything, but maybe even something better. So then the question is, what if they take? Well, if they take, then you notice something, that the king is no longer on f7, is a little bit more exposed. So what if we play queen h5 now? The queen is supported by the knight. Then they have to move here, and then you see queen f5 is checkmate. The king can't go back, there is the pawn, these two files are occupied by us, the queen is defended by the knight. So yeah, bishop g6. Now bishop g6, I just want to stay for a second on king f6. Because I made it sound like it was obvious, but it's not obvious at all. A very fascinating move is queen h4, because if they take our bishop, we just transpose the variation I just showed you. So check here, check. And what do? They literally have no moves, rather than taking or than playing bishop g5, but then we take, because our queen is supported. At first I excluded this variation, I'm talking about check here and here, because I thought bishop g5, but no, we just take it with checkmate. So yeah, bishop g6 is actually a forced checkmate. It's insane. So they take, then we check, and mate. Beautiful, truly beautiful. What is this? Again, can't we just take a rook? But I guess there are tricks. And you may say, what's the trick? First of all, I'm sorry if you're hearing noise, but it was my air conditioner. Now I turn it off because I'm getting some hurting my throat. It's because I'm talking a lot, but it's a combination of things. So here, what's the point of the puzzle? The point of the puzzle is we can take a rook, sure, but then they play f7. And the problem is we don't have a way to stop this pawn. Now, you may say, well, let's look at the checks. Good observation, thank you. There is this check. The king can just move. Well, we take, defending from the promotion, but they take. And all of a sudden they're threatening to promote, and they're also threatening our rook. However, in that position, we have a very important move that you have to spot, which is rook to g1. Their king is here. And if they promote, you can play rook f1 with a, I think it's called a skewer in this case. And when they move out, no matter what, you will win the queen on f8. And this will result in you being up a rook. So that's a very fascinating puzzle. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Rook takes. Now, if they lose tempi, because this is very interesting, what happens if they lose tempi? It's over immediately. Let's say they do something like king f2, trying to attack the rook. Now I can play rook e8 and I'm in time. And after they play f7, I just go in front of the pawn, it's not going anywhere. I will play rook g7, I will collect it. That's why after rook takes, they really have to play f7. If they don't, I have time to go to either g8 or e8 with one of my rooks, depending which one he attacks. And that's just going to be very, very simple for me to defend. So I think the crucial variation is really to push. But then we have this check. They move, doesn't matter where, it's not about taking with check. They take, I defend, they take back, and then I go here. And it's important also to see what happens if they go back with the king. Well, that's not enough, we just collect. So that's definitely a fascinating variation for sure. This move is very important. You don't go here, because then this comes with tempo. And this, there is this. and all of a sudden you're lost. So you really only have one move here. Okay, they play this move again. I told you it's important to notice what if the king plays another move, but here we just go here. Behind the pawn, nothing to be done. It's just easy. Okay, so that was very, very nice. So here the first instant move I see is 92. This is a check, and most importantly, I'm opening up the f-file, very important. Check. If they move, this is checkmate, thanks to the opening of the f-file. If they take with the rook, we have check here, and then checkmate. So this is very simple, much easier than the previous one, in my opinion. Of course, if you know the patterns, it's very simple, but if you don't, it's kind of annoying. That's very interesting. So, first move that comes to mind is h3. You just want to promote. They play b8 queen, you take, they take, then you play h2, and that's it. Now the question becomes, you may say that's very easy. First of all, we have to make sure there are no other moves, but what about rook f7 check? If you're intellectually honest with yourself, you should check rook f7 check first, because it's a check. Let me reopen the air conditioner. Unfortunately, I can't do it. I never wear the t-shirt. I just do it for the video to be professional. But yeah, it's very hot here. So, what about rook f7 again? I think that they moved the king, and then there is rook takes, and I think that here they don't take the rook, because then I play h3, and they have no way to stop h2. They can go with the bishop anywhere. I'm gonna push it. However, I studied Dvoretsky endgame position that very kindly a friend of mine, showed me, and basically the key was to not take the rook. I was playing, I don't remember, I think with the white pieces. You can take the rook or you can play another move, and the key was to play another move and not take the rook. So I think that here is the same. After check here and take, they take the pawn. And the point is that if you take back, they just take your rook. This is king-king, it's a draw. You're trying to win here, of course. And after this check, what if you move out? Well, then they save their bishop. And all of a sudden you're playing king and rook against king and bishop. I don't think that's winning. I know the endgame so little that I genuinely don't know that endgame, but I think it's a draw, a theoretical draw. Because if you had a rook and a bishop against a bishop, I think you can win that in some ways. But if you just have a rook against the bishop, you cannot win it. Oh yeah, I remember a game between Wesley So and Hans Niemann. The match they did before the qualification of Hans Niemann for Paris. And there was an endgame with Hans Niemann had the king and the rook against Wesley, king and bishop. And Wesley found himself with the king on a8, and Hans Niemann had the king on b6. And the rook was on the 5th rank. And Wesley played the move bishop to b8, and Hans Niemann simply played queen to a6 check, only move bishop a7 check, rook takes h7 check, king goes to b8, and then it's just checkmate from there. Just to make you realize, the king was here, the king was here. Let's make it in blue if I can for black. Hans Niemann was white here on g3. And he had a rook like here, let's say, I don't remember. He put the bishop here, and Hans Niemann simply played this check. And then all of a sudden you're self-mated, basically. Take, here, 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 here. And Hans Niemann won. But I remember that it was shocking because the commentators were screaming draw. So yeah, definitely rook here, king here, takes, bishop takes, it's a draw. Because again, I just saved the rook, but then you move the bishop anywhere, doesn't matter. There are no themes of trapping the bishop here. And that's a theoretical draw. So yeah, thanks to that game, I remember it. I guess it's useful then to look Chess Blitz even. That's funny. So, okay, so then I think the move has to be h3, because again, otherwise they have these themes of just giving it away. And in general, if you look at this position, what are they threatening? They are threatening bishop takes. Because then they're just gonna promote and you have to give away the rook. So definitely h3 has to be the move. It is. Very nice. Again, this is tricky. This is tricky. But now this is different. Oh, now I think I know it. Because now there is, of course, either rook f7 with check, because it's under attack, or h2. I think now it's rook f7 check. Because if you play h2, then bishop takes f8 to remove the guard of b8. And so you promote, but they promote too. And they're up a piece. And funnily enough, if you play bishop h2 to trade queens, they may play bishop d6 and go for the win. I have no idea what the theoretical sentence of that position is, but definitely if someone is pushing, it's white. So we said h2 forced. Oh no, actually h3 was forced. We are in this position. Okay, it's simpler than I thought. So here, rook f7. What's the difference now? They go to c3, to c1, it doesn't matter. Now you take the pawn. And the reason is, now they don't have bishop takes. So if they just move the bishop, that's just absolutely insane. You just save the rook, and you also save the pawn. You're just completely winning. So after check here takes, they have to take back. But now you push, and now they're not in time. And what about playing rook h8, for example? If they promote, you take, and you push. Well, here they play this. And if you push, they take, and then they promote. So check is good. Okay, now they're threatening to promote, so I think you really have to go for this. And now they're just not, yeah, that's not in time. That was a very, very fascinating puzzle. And I think the hardest part was to refute rook f2 check. Or rook somewhere, where was it? Yeah, it was actually, maybe, what is that, f7, f2? I don't even know the coordinates. f7, is rook f7? It was to refuse the check with the rook. And I think the concept of not taking immediately, but taking your pawn first, that was very crucial. So hopefully, if you have never seen that, hopefully you learned it. So, okay, what to do here? Well, the first instincts are chew. Again, you don't have checks, and you don't have captures, but you have threat of mate. There are chew, actually. You can try, I think, yeah. You can try to go to d4, setting up a couple of checkmates, or you can try to go to h6 to set up this checkmate. So this is very interesting position. I think is queen h6. Reason being, after queen h6, intuitively, f6 is of course the move that you have to check. Well, here there is the additional d4, but again, instinctually it doesn't seem to change anything. It may change things, so we have to check it, but after queen h6 and f6, my instincts are like, just knight g5, you know? Just knight g5. And I'm threatening checkmate on h7. If they take, the point is that the pawn is pinned because you just checkmate. So let's try to go into a little bit of depth. So queen h6, f6, knight g5. If they play rook to e7, that's very unfortunate because the queen doesn't look at the rook anymore, and this actually completely crushes black. It's just completely crushing. Let's count the material just to be like very, very precise. 4 pawns, 5, 3, 8 pawns, 6 pawns. We are down 2 pawns, but we are just down 2 pawns. I mean, if you visualize this position, we win a pawn back, and we will win an exchange with attack, but we won't win an exchange. We will just play rook a to e1, not the f1, because then it's check and they pick up the bishop, and we're just completely winning. It's just crushing. If they bring out the knight with sacrifice, and then we play rook e1. it's over. So, and even if there are no the tactics, if anything, we are just up an exchange for a pawn. So it's winning with attack. So yeah, queen h6, f6, knight g5, rook e7 doesn't work. So the only other move I think is queen e7. And this is where it gets tricky, because your first instinct may be bishop takes f6 again, with the idea that if the queen takes, you have checkmate, but you don't. Because after queen check, the king moves here, and the queen is still guarding f7. And h8 coincidentally, which is annoying. And the knight is under attack. So it's tricky. Queen h6, f6, knight g5, queen e7. How do you continue? Well, you could try rook a to e1. And now the queen is in massive trouble. First of all, you are attacking the queen. Second of all, if they take your rook, then they get mated. Now there is no excuse because the queen is too far away. And noticing how rook a to e1 is important, because rook takes e1 doesn't come with check. If you bring the other rook, you lose the game actually, maybe not. And that's why they play d4. No, that's genius stuff. So I'm sorry, but I'm so happy I found it. So queen h6, f6 is wrong. It's inferior because knight g5, queen e7, rook f to e1 is still good, because after queen takes, rook takes, rook takes, you have bishop takes. I mean, it's not ideal because it's not ideal, but after the bishop goes back, well, you're probably going to win the game. However, if after queen h6 there is d4 first, forcing you to play bishop takes d4 and then f6, knight g5 and queen e7, the move rook f to e1 loses the game, because queen takes, rook takes, rook takes, the bishop is now on d4, and so this is checkmate. The knight is on g5. This is so beautiful. I'm so happy I found it. My saliva can't stay in how much I'm happy. So whoa, I'm so proud of this. I'm so happy I found this. To me, that's better of solving the puzzle. I don't care if I miss it. I don't care. To me, that's better than solving the puzzle. Unbelievable. To me, that's so much better than solving the puzzle. I don't care about the puzzle. I can lose it. I'm gonna play a4. Just kidding. But yeah, I'm so happy. So queen h6. Again, d4. Okay, at this point, d4 we have it. Bishop takes. They have to play f6. Knight g5. Again, queen e7, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Rook a to e1, and this time again, if they take, is not check, so we can go for the mate. But if they don't take, what are they gonna do? You may say, well, they move the queen. First of all, where? They can't. But even if they go here, I know I can take with the knight, their queen, but even better is just to take the rook. They have to take, and all of a sudden they're deflected. And this is checkmate, because the queen is here. So I think that's for mate. Now, I got a little bit excited for this crazy variation, so let's try to calm down a second. And to calm down even more, let me click this button, which just drives me crazy. I hope I never disappeared in this video. Sometimes I do disappear though. There are some very funny jokes here to be made, but... And I can't even tell you the type, because then it's like telling the joke. But yeah. So, okay, queen h6, maybe I'm missing something. What can they do to stop this mate? Is the only move to play either f6 or d4? Yeah, that's definitely a thing. So let's throw d4 in. Taking the knight makes no sense with any mate. So f6, knight g5. Is there another way to defend from this? King f8 is not a thing. King f7. Oh, king f7 is not a thing because there's the knight. So no, there are no other ways. No. No. They really have to go queen e7. And then we have, yeah, I'm just gonna go. Oh, they play f6, wow. Guys, pull this position up in your analysis board. I'm so sorry I cannot do it for you. But after bishop b7, queen h6, right? Check what happened after d4. Try to check the variation I showed you. I think it makes sense. Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Maybe they can throw it later, and so the engine doesn't care. But yeah, maybe they can throw it later. The engine is not really impressed, but still, it's interesting. At this point, I'm starting to doubt knight g5 because I really expected d4 from the engine, but maybe it means I missed something. I start to doubt myself now, so let's still go for it. Okay, rook e7. Yeah, I guess that was the best line. Yeah, I guess, you know what? No, now I understand. So after queen h6, the best line is f6 with or without d4, and then rook e7, because this actually prevents every checkmate. You will lose tremendous material, but it prevents every checkmate. And so in this line with rook e7, it makes no sense at all to play d4 and give away yet another pawn. It makes zero sense. Instead, in the line with queen e7, then d4 is a nice attempt, because at least you prevent one of the two moves. So I guess that's the reason why the engine doesn't play d4. So yeah, not playing d4 is actually best in the optic of the fact that rook e7 is the best line. But very interesting, you can still check the true lines with queen e7 with or without d4 in. That's why I'm saying try to find this position on your own. Maybe one day I'll have two monitors, because it would be really, really pretty to have two monitors in these situations. So again, I think it just works. Okay, queen f8, very interesting. I didn't thought about that. But I think that, a mistake I've made is maybe not to go too deep on the rook e7. When you get overexcited on something, it's human, of course, but if you want to be precise and try to improve, which is what we're doing here, you should try to check really everything. So, yeah, going a little bit deeper on the line with rook e7 would have been more professional, objectively. But okay, let's keep going. So I think here you can just take, and we are just straight up an exchange. There is no trapping the knight, there's nothing. We're just gonna go out, go back, or whatever. We are just up an exchange, so yeah. But yeah, going a little bit deeper, it would have been more professional. This is very tricky. What? I think I know it, but still it's tricky. Huh. Because here is the thing. My king can't do nothing. What are they threatening? What is this? Just take, no? Just take. It's a draw. Check, you can go here if anything. It's a draw. But okay, they went here, thank you. I think so. We have to check the king. And the king can take the pawn. I don't think that's the best move though, but we have to analyze it. Then we play a very nice move, which is king f7. They have no checks, very important. I mean, they have one, but we just take, so we will win. They have no meaningful checks. So the only move to escape the threat of mate is to go here. But then we check, and yes, they escape the threat of mate, but we win the rook. That's the pattern I know. I've never seen this specific position, but I kinda know this pattern. You check, yes, they win the pawn, but everything is in the corner. You move forward with the king, and they have no moves. That's the pattern. It's a thing. But what if after the check they go here? That's very tricky. Because if I then go here, hoping to enter the same line, they take here with check. And maybe after king f6 is the same. Wow. Maybe it's the same, because all of a sudden the rook is the new corner of the king. So let me check this. So this, here. What can they do? What can they do? For example, if they move the king, so if they take, there's checkmate in one this time, so it's unthinkable. If they move here, which is the only move for the king, then I have king g7, and I win. Obvious, okay. So after check here, they may try to move the rook. But then I check them, is not checkmate, they can go here. But then I just promote, takes, I'm up a rook. So, yeah, I think that's actually, they don't have moves. What if they go here, you ask? Why do you keep asking tough questions? Come on. Oh, again, I didn't analyze this. So if they take here, I didn't analyze that. Sorry. Check here. What did we say? Here, right? Yes. Yeah, so the difference is that if you go here, first of all, they can check you, but even if they can't, they have king takes. And that's not checkmate anymore because they can go here. And all of a sudden, they are fine. There's nothing on the other side. They can just check you and go away. There's nothing. So, okay, check here. Here has to be the move. What if they check you? Again, I think it's king f6. And I'm threatening mate. There are no meaningful checks. Only way to escape is king h5, but then I check, they move, and I win the rook. So that's good, I think. So check here. Taking with the rook is unbelievably losing for black, which is it's insane. But we are perfectly set up, so I guess it makes sense. So what do? Again, they move the rook, but they move the rook. But then I check them and I promote. That's the solution. Oh, they take. But then I go here, right? That was the critical line. They have to move the king, I win the rook. I guess that's the best for the engine. We are at 40. Now, I spend a lot of time. How much am I recording for? 1 hour. Wow. You know what? I said that I would have closed at 50 because I made a previous run and I reached 50 very fast, but I wasn't going in as much depth in the puzzles as I am now. So you know what? I'm gonna close it here. You can screenshot this puzzle here and try to solve it on your own, because the next time I'm gonna reopen chess.com. I'm gonna close it here. I'm gonna reopen it again, and if it reloads from 1, I can't do nothing about it. I will very fast reach 40, hopefully with no mistakes, and from there, even if it's a different run, I'm gonna restart the video from there. If I can, I will keep this run here, but if it deletes, I will go very fast until 40, so I'm very fresh. And I mean, the video starts at 40 anyway, so it's not going to be super long for you. And I'm just going to go for there. So no matter what, next video you will see from 40. Having said that, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Enjoy your chess.